lived in the, yeah, Paul Heipel has lived in this area for many years. He was trained as a geologist and has greatly expanded his knowledge since that time. Paul has served on committees concerned with conservation, natural history, and the human impact on the world. I first went on a field trip with Paul about 20 years ago. We went into the steep marble mountains of Northern California with a troop of boys for 5 days. I already had been impressed by how, whether looking at for oil in rock or for galls on plants, he really looks for a habitat, an environment. I am sure you will be impressed and instructed by how this outlook yields useful, happy observations. Hey, thanks, Paul, for being here.
Thank you. So I guess I'm ready to share my screen. Okay, and put it into slideshow. Are we ready to move on now?
I think we are.
Okay. My talk is about local oak galls. And the reason I put it as local oak galls because galls is a huge subject. And to whittle it down, I thought we'll do only the oaks and we'll only do the locals. So we only have a few different things and not thousands. So what is a gall? A gall is, at least for an oak gall, a product of a wasp. That gall you just saw there, that's an oak apple gall, and you can see why they call it that. This was up in Oregon where the oak apple galls are all bright red. And this is the wasp that produces that gall. This is the California gall wasp, Andricus quercus californicus. One of the neat things, by the way, about the scientific names of the wasps that produce these galls is that they often describe what they are on or what they are doing or where they are. It's a very useful thing to have. So this wasp, as you can see, it's on a piece of cloth. It's not a very big wasp. They're kind of tiny. They're all female in this species. They do not know of any males, and they have one generation a year. And what are they related to? Well, they're in the family Cynipidae, which is the gall wasps. And here we have the 5 tribes of gall wasps. We are going to be looking at the oak gall wasps. And another group we're going to look at is the oak inequine gall wasps. Why are we going to look at them? Well, these produce galls, but these live in those galls, and sometimes they alter the look of the gall because they are there. And as you can see, there are lots of other ones that go to herbaceous plants, and here's a group that goes to roses. So in that tribe, there are 38 genera. And this is, by the way, a bug guide. If you're not bugguide.net, if you're not familiar with it, this is a great resource to go and look at things. They have beautiful pictures from all over the place. You can enter pictures and they will do identifications for you. It's really quite a good site. And like I say, the 38 genera, about 1,500 described species. It's a huge family, really huge. Yeah, the family's huge. Tribe is even bigger. And they are all in the order of insects called Hymenoptera, the bees, ants, and wasps. And these are extremely important insects. In this group are ants, which do an awful lot for the environment. They disperse seeds, they clean up things, they pollinate, they do many, many things in the environment to the point where when you lose them, you can actually lose other plants and animals. They also this order contains the bees. All the pollination is done by bees, is important. This order also contains a huge number of small parasites. If we didn't have Hymenoptera parasites, we'd be overrun by insects. These really control a great number of insect species that would be pests without the parasites. And the Hymenoptera have a very interesting way of determining the sex of their offspring. The female can control whether the egg is fertilized or not, and a fertilized egg will be female and an unfertilized egg will be male. They believe this is why they have so many colonial insects in this order, because all of those females are very closely related. They all have the same mother and the same father. So if we're going to talk about galls, we have to talk about the oaks that they are the wasps, but also the oaks that they will be galling. So we're only going to be considering the local oak species. And of course, gall wasps are native, so are these oaks that we're going to be talking about. The gall wasps has specific limited ranges. The species often cover where a species of oak is, but they also like different environments, like hotter areas in the valley that are different species there than in coastal areas. So you have to look at the microclimates to think where some of these species are going to be. And then the oaks are divided into three groups. There's the red oak group, or the black oaks, and there are two species in Portola Valley. The white oak group, which has 4 species, and the gold cap oaks, one species found actually further up the hill, but I think they're in Portola Valley if you take the top of the hill. Among these groups of oaks, there are numerous and common hybrids. Some people say that the oaks are just a complete mess of hybrids. There's no real good species, but somebody went out and described the species and the type is out there. So when you go out and look at a species, you go to the type and say, does this fit or is it close enough? So here are the groups again. We're now going to go and start looking at the galls. We're going to start with the black oak group. So this is the black oak apple gall. You're saying to yourself, does that look like an apple? Well, this is the spring gall. There are 2 forms of this one. And this is the sexual generation. So that gall either has a male or a female in there. It's not all females. When you go to the summer, this is what you get. Same species, that and that. This is the asexual gall. Every grub in there is going to be a female. And at the end of the year, this is what they look like. Those are the exit holes right here where the wasps have exited the gall. Galls can be on any part of the plant. These galls are on the male flowers of coast live oaks. And this is called the sausage gall. As you can see why, it looks kind of like a sausage. The flowers are unaffected. The male flowers on the gall are unaffected by that gall being there. They still produce pollen. Another species actually galls the flower itself. This is called the kernel gall. And these are extremely tiny little galls. By the way, this one has another species. This is the sexual generation. And I have not yet seen the asexual generation during the summer. It looks like one of the old tops. It's a ball with a little spindle sticking out of the top of it, and it's on leaves. You notice that these things can change the position on the tree where they're galling. Okay, what's going on here? There we go. And this is what the kernel gall looks like later in the spring when they begin to fall off and the wasps exit the galls. This is the bud gall, also known as the spindle gall. This is when it's just forming. It's this light green color, and later on it will look like this. It's always on the terminal bud of coast live oaks. And this is the most common gall on coast live oaks. These are pumpkin galls, these little tiny round things. If you look at them sideways, they look like tiny pumpkins. And these are found in late summer, usually August, and they're usually on the top surface of the leaves. Now, this is a peculiar gall. This is called the erupting gall. And I found these over in Arrastradero, and I just happened to be there at the right time when it started to erupt. See this kind of gelatin-like material coming out of here? The surface breaks open, this gelatin stuff comes out, and then out comes the larvae, falls to the ground, and pupates down in the leaf litter. Well, why would they want to do that? Well, this is why birds are trying to find those larvae. And if they didn't erupt, they'd probably be all eaten. But it's a very peculiar gall. I was fortunate enough to be there when it actually occurred, watching these things fall out of there. And here we have some erupting galls, but there's something here. This is called the pedicel gall. And you'll notice the exit hole right here. So I made it try to find more of these when they were in good shape. I just found this one. And a couple years later, I finally found them. There's what they look like when they're fresh. And I got really lucky at Edgewood. I found this branch with 4 of them forming. They're always on the pedicel of the leaf. And this is one I found just this year. I was removing oak trees, seedlings from my yard because I don't want my whole yard to be filled with coast live oaks. And I noticed one was galled. I pulled another one, it was galled. Well, this is the lower stem gall of coast live oaks, always at the base of the stems of seedlings. And if you don't look carefully, you would miss this one totally. By the way, look at apical. This is the 2-horned gall. Has this kind of looks like a little snail with 2 horns on the end. I had the toughest time finding this gall. I finally found it on a black oak. This is on a California black oak, Quercus callagii. They are also found on coast live oaks. They're a little harder to see. They're always on the bottoms of the leaves. So you have to turn the leaf over to find these. Now we're going to move to the Portola Valley white oak group. And the white oak group contains the scrub oak, the leather oak, the valley oak, and the blue oak. And all 3 of these are found in Portola Valley itself. In fact, actually, some of the nicest scrub oaks I've seen are on the West Ridge in the sandstone. The leather oaks are only on Escobar, where the serpentine, this serpentine endemic oak, but on Escobar, you can find them there. The valley oaks, of course, are lower down in the valley, and the blue oaks are on the hills. And of course, the famous one for any of this one is the Oak Apple Gall. And this is the largest gall in California. It is found on all of the white oak group, all of the species. I've seen it on the scrub oak, I've seen it on the leather oak, I've seen it on the blue oak, and I've seen it on the valley oak. The preference is the largest number will be found on valley oaks. There's one over at Jasper Ridge this year that must have had 100 of these galls on the lower branches. It was just amazing to see how many that tree was supporting. And they can be, like I say, as red as an apple. Oops, I'm sorry. This one has a little bit. This one looks more like a Fuji, and this one like a Delicious. Why are they so big? Well, this is why they're so big. These are acorn woodpecker holes. And the woodpeckers are going in, and they have to dig through this gall to get the larvae on the inside. That's a lot of work. The bigger the gall is, the more work it is to go get those little morsels on the inside. And here you can see where they got in these little round spaces. That is the chamber where the gall wasps were, dispersed in all of this kind of spongy material that you have to remove to get to them. So I think that's what's driving the size of this gall is woodpeckers. And this is my favorite one. This is a Turban Gall. These are absolutely gorgeous pink galls on the undersides of leaves in usually late August and into September. They are often in groups, and here you can see the way they grow. They start off small with long spindles, and then they get fatter and bigger. And here's a high density one over at Rastradero. There were literally hundreds on some of these branches, low down. This, by the way, is also one that has two generations. This is the asexual all-female generation. I have not seen the spring one. It's much more inconspicuous and not easy to find, so I have not yet taken a picture of that one. One you will find in abundance is this red Cone Gall, and I'll show you how abundant they can be. They're almost always on the bottoms of the leaves, but there's occasionally ones on the top, and they are on valley and blue oaks, but they tend to be more common on the bluer oaks. And here's a red Cone Gall with another interesting one that's much smaller. This is the disc gall, and that shining there, they are as almost look like they're made out of ceramic. They're really shiny and beautiful little galls. And one of the things that was interesting while I was taking pictures of it, you notice there's a wasp here. Well, that's not the maker of the gall. This is a parasite. And I noticed that she was doing something that I knew was the method that parasitic wasps use to find their targets. Their antennae go up and down out of phase. One's up, one's down, and then they go back and forth like that. And I was watching it do that, and I think, that one's looking for a place to lay its egg. And I caught it. This is the sheath here, but there's the ovipositor going into the base of that gall and taking over the gall. And here the antennae are no longer going up and down. I've only seen this twice. Here is a Wig Gall. These are these fuzzy ones at the base along the central vein of the leaf. They're kind of a white wig. And here are all three of those on the same leaf. Here's the Cone Gall, red Cone Gall, the Disc Gall, and the Wig Gall, all together. Now this is the Honeydew Stem Gall. What is amazing about this one is the top of it exudes sugars, which attracts ants. It also attracts yellow jackets. So you have these ants and yellow jackets defending these galls. This is like they're farming aphids. But the insect is actually not producing the honeydew. They have made the tree produce the honeydew for their protection. See, a gall is usually just the food and shelter, but it also can be the protection of the larvae as well. Amazing bit of evolution to do that. Of course, you do have the problem here. You can see some mold and soot mold growing on the sugar water. This is the convoluted gall, always found on this mid vein on the undersides of the leaf. And it's just this round convoluted gall. It's a very interesting one to find. Here's the club gall. As the name implies, it looks like a little club and it's stuck on the veins on the undersides of the leaves. Here's the disc gall. And these two are both the same species, but what happens is when they age, they ripen, they turn brown, and then they detach from the leaf and fall down in the leaf litter, taking the insect with them. On the blue oak, instead of getting as many of the red cone galls, we get another cone-like one. This is called the striped volcano gall. Looks like little lava flows going down the surface. And this is on my blue oak in my yard. And I had wanted to find this gall for the longest time. And one spring storm, I went out and there were all these pieces of my oak had been broken off and were on the ground. And there it was. This is the hair stem gall. It's this long gall coming out of the edge of the leaf with the gall out at the tip. A very weird sort of gall, but fun to find. So this is a spring one, and I have never seen it in the lower branches. I think it might be up in the upper branches, and that's why I have not seen it before. And this one, I used to call this the splash gall, but this is saucer galls. They have this edge along it like this. And these tend to be on blue oaks rather than valley oaks. So you don't get that disc gall with the shiny. These are rough looking. The larval chamber, by the way, is these little parts in the center here. This is just kind of decoration around the edge. Yeah, this one's the Crystalline Gall. This is actually not one gall, but numerous galls that grow together. When the wasp lays its eggs, they put multiple ones and they grow into this fluffy, crystalline looking mass, and they fall apart later on. And there they are laying on the ground. On the leather and scrub oak, we get this gall. Now, in the books, they call this the beet gall, but I like to call this the strawberry gall because it looks just like a strawberry. And they are really fun to find late summer into fairly deep into fall. You can find these. And You know, they're one of my favorites because they're just so unusual looking. On the leather oak as well, instead of having the honeydew gall, they have the clasping stem gall, where this red clasp goes around the stem. This knob here, once again, produces honeydew, and so these have that same protection as the stem gall I showed you, the honeydew gall, before. But this one only is found on leather oaks and scrub oaks. This one's called the Urchin Gall, and it reminds me actually of a fruit of a yew. If you've ever seen a yew fruit, they had this massive stuff and then the seeds in the center, but the seeds missing on this one. This one, once again, leather and scrub only. And here is a gall that I looked for and looked for and looked for. And then on a Jasper Ridge gall hike, Marav showed me where they were. They were on the undersides of the leather oaks. And the problem with leather oaks is they tend to fold over and kind of hide the underside. So you really had to turn the leaf over and open it up. By the way, some of these galls do not have their name wasp yet. They know it's a wasp, but they have not described it yet. This is something that is really interesting about this. Ron Russo, who writes the books on galls, has been finding new species all the time, and he sends them to experts. Sometimes it's hard to get the wasp to hatch out, and maybe you don't have enough information for the ones that come out to actually describe the species. So this is a science that's still going on. And this is an oak apple or oak gall. So, you know, it's not like it's some other plant that doesn't matter. It's one of these beautiful ones on the oaks. And I included this one because Marav has found this in Portola Valley. I have not seen this one. This is the Urchin Gall. Unlike the Turban Gall, the spikes come up all over the entire gall. This one was taken out in the Central Valley just as you start into the foothills of the Sierras. And they come like this, all red, and they also come with white spines. And they're typically found on blue oaks. They are really a gorgeous gall to see. And finally, I thought I would do one that's not actually local, but it's so very pretty. This is the stellate gall. This one grows on the Oregon oaks. And I found this in the Anderson Valley, and they're just so different from all the others. Now we'll move on to the gold cap oaks. Gold cap oaks are canyon live oak. And also as you go up into the Sierras, you will find the huckleberry oak, which is very common oak, but probably most people don't realize it's an oak because it looks like a vaccinium, a blueberry bush. And they often form just beautiful stands, 2 or 3 feet tall, all over the ground. And here in Portola Valley, they are found only up on the ridges. I've seen them, you know, probably, we did have one in Jasper Ridge, but it didn't survive. They tend to want higher rainfalls and higher elevations. The reason they call them a gold cap oak is if you look under the cap of these, there's like gold fuzz on the inside of the cap. So this is the Spindle Gall, and this is, by the way, a huckleberry oak. I took this up in the Sierras. These are also found on our canyon live oaks. They just come out of the very end of the stem beyond where the terminal bud is. And this is the kidney gall. And as you can suspect by looking at the ants crawling all over it, this produces honeydew as well. There is some speculation that this is one of those galls that's two species of wasp. One makes one part, and then the other gall comes, or wasp comes along and alters it to look like this. Very unusual looking gall. Speaking of unusual, this is the mushroom gall. Kind of looks like, what is it, the sugar plum fairy houses. You can see, by the way, the exit hole right there where the wasp came out. I'm not sure why this large Hershey's Kiss type thing sits on top of the larval chamber, but that's the way it works. It's really cool to see this one. And now this is the gold cap Apple Gall. Now what makes this one really amazing is, see all these spots on it? Those are where the inner parts of it touch, these spindles. So this is the larval chamber. And all these things hold it out from the edge of the gall, and the rest of the gall is completely empty. Kind of looks like one of those space alien ships, you know, with all the nerve center and the control center in the center. Just really a very, very interesting little gall. And by the way, you see it's usually found on the vaccinifolia. So if you are interested in pursuing this, a new book of Ron Russo's has just come out and it's available. The Plant Galls of the Western United States. It is bigger and has more galls than the last one he put out. He keeps expanding this. He keeps finding new ones. He keeps expanding the area in which these galls are found, and has excellent information, pictures. If you really want to pursue galls, this is the book to get. Can think of nothing better. And he has really pushed the study of these galls to new heights. There's just no doubt about it. So that's all I have for a talk, and I'll take questions if you want to.
I just think that was wonderful, Paul. I hope I'm not muted.
You are not.
Just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, the more you get into it, the more you find you can, anywhere you go, you start poking around in the oaks, poking around in the plants, and the galls are there. Rob and I have done 3 gall hikes at Jasper Ridge for the docents. And every one of them, we find new stuff as we're going around. This year, by the way, was an extremely good year for the, it's a fuzz gall on the California sagebrush. And one of them was so thick with these galls that, I don't know if you know Ken Himes, expert on plants. He looks over at it and says, "What's that plant?" Because he couldn't recognize that it was a sagebrush. It was so covered in these galls. Oh, by the way, galls are very good for identifying species and what the hybrids are. They really are better than, you know, trying to go to the key. If you find the gall, you know this is this. You find that gall, you know it's that. Many of them are very specific. Any other questions?
Well, I don't know if you mentioned, but it's so interesting that you see repetition, even though there's such a variety, you still see that many of them are pink, many of them are cream. Why would they become pink when they're made out of the leaf itself?
Well, you know, what they're doing is there's some chemical reaction or some reaction between the larvae, the egg, or the feeding behavior of the larvae, whatever it is, that does something to the genes of the oak to produce these things. Why these colors and forms and everything are in there, I do not know. It would be interesting to study, but it is definitely taking the cells and forming these abnormal growths, which are food and shelter for these insects. You know, how they developed it, it's just amazing. Oh, by the way, did you know that galls are important for history?
Yes.
Yes, why are they?
Ink.
Ink, exactly. The Magna Carta and the Declaration of Independence are both written with gall inks before we had India ink.
I
I
have.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
How do you make it?
There are recipes. I think it usually grind them up and use an iron mordant, and they are very long-lasting, high-quality inks.
Okay, I gather the big apple galls off of the valley oaks for my daughter who lives in eastern Washington. She's a spinner and dyes her yarn with natural dyes.
Mhm.
She uses those big apple galls as a mordant because they're high in tannin.
Oh, yeah.
Now, how, by the time they fall, have the wasps left them?
No.
No.
In fact, I have here a oak apple gall that is still sending out wasps.
Oh my gosh.
3 years later. I mean, there are exit holes all over the place on this thing. I mean, it's just amazing piece of work.
There are no oaks where she lives near Spokane, out in the country. So I've been gathering these and either taking them to her or sending them to her, assuming that the wasps were gone.
You know, I've been to the Turnbull bird sanctuary or wildlife sanctuary south of Spokane, and I thought I saw some oaks there, but maybe I'm wrong.
I've been there, but
Yeah.
I was looking at birds and not at oaks.
Well, I was looking at plants, but mostly I was looking at herbaceous plants, and was, you know, the interesting thing about that is one of the scabland things
Yes,
where
it is in the scablands.
yeah, well, it is one of those channels where the flood went through, and it eroded off all of the, you know, around it. There's loess,
Yes.
the dust, and that makes it great farmland. It eroded through those, and that Turnbull is why there's all those ponderosa pines and all those strange plants growing in there.
Yeah. Well, she lives in a canyon. She's not up in the less where the wheat fields are. She's down in one of the canyons in Mill Creek Canyon.
Is she, by the way, in the basalts?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. She's probably in one of those channels that came with the Great Flood.
Yeah. Yes.
Just hope the glaciers don't. Oh, wait, glaciers anymore? No.
Not in that area. But
yeah, you know how that formed? There was a Clark Fork, and the glacier would block it off, and Lake Missoula would form in Montana, and then it would break the ice dam and down into Washington. Biggest floods ever.
On one of my visits up there, we did a scablands tour.
Yep.
And went and found some of there's a little lake called Coffee Pot Lake.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, where there's a stone that looks like a old-fashioned coffee pot.
Yeah.
And that's one of those scoured out areas.
You've been over to Moses Lake area?
Pardon?
Moses Lake?
This is west of Moses Lake.
Okay. West of Moses. Yeah, that's right.
She lives near Davenport.
Okay. Yeah, I love going over there. That's a fascinating place.
Thank you for this talk. It was very, very interesting.
Yes.
So Paul, what's the density of galls? Like, if you walk into an oak forest, is it like you'll find a gall on, like 1 out of 10 trees, or does it tend to be sort of patchy? So you have a couple of trees that have galls on it, and then the next ones don't, or how does this work?
It's patchy.
Mhm.
It all depends on, whether it's a good valley oak or a good blue oak, or, maybe the currents of the air. At Jasper Ridge, there are 3 valley oaks just out the parking lot. And this one was hit really hard. There are oak apple galls all over the base of it. And the other ones only have a few. And sometimes you'll see that they prefer the younger oaks to the older ones. And certain branches. I guess we'll have to interview the wasps, find out what they prefer.
Thank you.
Paul, I've noticed that you've referred to sick oaks, or another term I've forgotten, but indicates that these galls are not necessarily neutral for the plants.
Well, they are taking, what do you call it, the nutrients out of the plant. I mean, they're turning it, but this is what is valuable for the ecosystem. Plants produce food, and the only way to get it out of the plant is to eat it. And these are eating that plant, and they're producing a whole ecosystem of these wasps, inoquanes, things that feed upon this honeydew, on and on and on. It's really an ecosystem onto itself, and it doesn't seem to do much harm to the oaks. I don't see them. It's not like a mistletoe that seems to really parasitize them.
Oh, thanks. Boy, just thanks and thanks and thanks for such a splendid, stimulating talk.
Yeah, I don't see some people here who I thought were going to be here. They tried to get in the last time. So if you would like me to do this again sometime, when I would be happy to.
Well, I myself would like to see it again after I have gotten this book by Russo and gone over it and gone out and done some looking.
I've got all of his copies. I have been buying his books as he puts them out. I've got it all the way back to his first book.
But I suspect that Russo, as competent as he is, may not be as interesting as you are.
Well, I have been to his gall hikes or talks, and they are fascinating too, because he actually, goes in and talks to the experts about this, the actual entomologists, as I've got this new one, And of course, he's open to taking anything you want. I found that the flowers of elderberry and the flowers of the golden currant are galled here in the local area. And the flowers will not open. They form these ball-like flowers among all the rest of the normal flowers. And if you open up, there's this little insect inside that's altered the flowers. I even found such galled flowers up in the lake's basin on a species that's rather rare. It's a Heath family member, and there are only those certain areas around one lake where this plant grows, and they're galled. So you go and you think, okay, rare plant and a gall. That's probably a rare gall.
Hey, Paul.
Yes.
Paul, this is Susie and Dieter. We've been watching.
Hi, Susie,
I have.
Dieter. Yeah.
Hi. I have Wi-Fi problems, so I'm the person who called in, but I had
Okay.
the video on too. So after the Gall walk with you and Meroff and Sarah at Jasper Ridge, I don't know, a month or so ago, I took Dieter on a Gall walk, and we walked along the Alpine Road Trail by
Yeah.
Ford Field. There's live oaks down there, and then we walked out toward town, and we looked at the willows, and we found galls on there. We looked at the coyote brush, and we just had a wonderful time. You know, we don't get as many steps in, but we see a lot of galls. They're still around.
I know, and it's all depending on the season too. I don't go out in the winter. I didn't do that much in the spring, but there are a lot of spring galls that I have not seen yet. So yeah, it's a year-round thing. And
Yeah, well,
you know,
we want to thank you. This was a wonderful talk. We really
when you go-
appreciate it. Thank you.
you go on trips, look around too, you find galls all over. You know, I was up in Washington or Eastern Oregon finding galls. So never stops.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Once you become aware, you start looking. It changes the way you look at the world.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. We appreciate this.
Anybody else for the question?
Well, once again, Paul, and I have a feeling I'm muted.
No, you aren't.
Well, once again, I thank you. And what I said about you before has been backed up 100 times just in this half hour. So,
I never stop looking.
yeah. Well, I tend to think that I do a lot of looking, but boy, with this talk, I've seen how much I don't see.
You know, that's only ones where I had the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got quite a collection of Gall photos too. I don't know if you might be interested in seeing a few of those. I have a whole, let's see, where is my, I have them on Flickr and I have them on my, get out this. Taking a while to load for some reason. Okay. I'm going to screen share. So this is my photos of galls. You can see I've got ones I didn't put in, like this one with all the leaves together. Yeah, I've been taking a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
I like this one. It's,
Now, which one's that?
I don't know which one this one is. That's why I
yeah.
didn't. Let's see, come on. It's obviously a stem gall on a blue oak, but I couldn't figure out from this one what it was in Russo's book, so I didn't include it. Besides, I haven't seen that in Portola Valley either. Trying to find. Yeah, this one's actually this is on galled on silk tassels. So this is the female flowers. They get these galls on those. And I think I have some chinkapin. Here's the rose. That's what the rose galls look like. More stellate galls. Oh, I like this one too. Oh. You see anything you want to look at? Now this one was a disc gall that's on blue oaks. and it's just as tight as can be on the bottom of the leaf. I, of course, chose what I thought were the best ones. Oh, this is on a coffee berry. The insect makes the leaf fold, and you just, it's hard to find these. And the insect's inside that folded leaf. And these funny looking galls. Oh, this is one I could not find in Russo's book. This is the flower. This is on a white oak, and it's obviously on the male flowers, and you can see the gall here with the flowers on the top. And there's nothing in his book about something like this. This is at Edgewood I took this. What was this one?
Do you send your photos into him?
Yes, I do. I haven't sent that one yet. Oh, this was really weird. I don't know what was going on there. It's a Coast Live Oak, and this is the center bud. Yeah, I take pictures anytime I find something weird. And I thought I had the chinkapins in here. Oh, this was one I found up in Washington or Eastern Oregon. I think this, you know, I'm not even sure what this plant is. It looks kind of like a willow. Where are the chinkapins? Oh, here's the chinkapin. So here are the, this is the male flowers, these are the female, and you get these big fuzzy balls in among the flowers. I took this one up at Lassen, and I understand that they would be on the chinkapins here, but I haven't had a chance to go out and look for them. Yeah, this is the poplar. Just tons of them.
Hey, Paul, what do you use a phone or a camera for?
Oh, I use a camera. Here, by the way, the flowers I was talking about, you see these ball-like things? Those are not seeds. Those are flowers that are galled. And I'm going to find the golden, or the golden currant one if I can. Yeah, I have a cannon that I use, a little pocket of tiny cannon that I can put on on my belt, carry it everywhere. It's not very difficult to carry it around. And I get pretty good pictures with it, I think.
Darn right. Remarkable.
Yeah. I know I took some pictures of that golden currant, but where is it? Sometimes I wonder if I put the oh, yeah, this is a different gall here. This is a not a crystalline gall, but what's the name of this one? This is on my blue oak out in front.
And does it feel fuzzy?
Yeah, it does. You see, it's different from this. This is the real crystalline gall. Yeah, I see the sambucus, but I don't see the golden currant. Yeah, it's just fun doing this. There's just no doubt about it. What's this one? Oh, yeah, this was one Marov pointed out. This is on Cercocarpus, the mountain mahogany, and the buds are galled at the tips.
It's like a weird pussy willow.
Yeah, You know, I haven't even taken a picture of the, yeah, there's the hair gall in a different position. Hair stem gall. Haven't taken a picture of the galls on the, what do I call it? Oh, and when I checked that out, this was live oak that was cut off, and here's that thing that galls the very base again. That one that I was pulling up the seedlings. Apparently that rejuvenated it. So anyway, I can't find what I was looking for, so yeah. Someday maybe we ought to have a gall hike for non-docents.
I would like to go
Jasper
on
Ridge.
one.
Yeah. In fact, actually, that was what this was. If it weren't for COVID, I would want to have this talk and then do an actual hike and go out and look at them.
Yeah.
And that would be a lot of fun.
You talked a lot about summer, fall. So will we have to wait until then to have another hike option?
You know, most of them are spring through summer. And there's two really distinct seasons. There's the spring ones and then the late summer ones. I like the late summer ones the best because that's when you get some of my favorite ones, but there are ones in the spring as well.
Cool.
And who knows what I would find if I go out in the spring more.
Well, summer, maybe COVID will be all right. We'll see.
Someday it's got to go away.
Or something. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's 8:30, so
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
we should wrap up. And let me also add to the thanks from everybody. That was super interesting. Now I want to use it as an identification tool.
Yes.
And
It,
keep my eyes open to see these wonders that are everywhere, it seems, and I'm not seeing them.
yeah. In fact, actually, that's one of the reasons I got into galls is that they're an easy way to identify some things. So,
Cool. Yeah. Fantastic.
Well, you've sure gotten into galls.
yeah, well, I'm into rocks too and a few other things. These are fun.
That's what I mean by you have continued to educate yourself,
Yeah.
which is the most fun of all.
I have a cool thing going on right now. For some reason, the Argentine ants have died out in my area of Ladera, and the native ants are moving in. And I just discovered recently across the street a carpenter ant nest that appears to be newly founded. There are very few workers. And if that's true, it's the nocturnal ones because I go out, I only find them out at night. And these are the ones that I've seen at Jasper Ridge and at Edgewood that have thousands of workers when they mature. And they must last for at least 20 years because when I got to Jasper Ridge the first time, I went up, they showed me these ants and they're still there. And the ones at Edgewood, they've been there for at least 10 years, these nests. So, you know, long-lived ants. And it'd be really cool to watch one develop from the first queen to a big colony like that.
And also how it shows that you can be a naturalist anywhere. You know, you don't have to run to the Amazon to understand these dynamics, that it's happening right under your nose.
Well, that's why I have my whole yard filled with native plants because that's what I want, you know, native plants draw in all the native stuff.
Yeah.
So, and it's, yeah, there's lots of stuff to see here. I've had four species of ants in my yard besides the Argentine, the winter ants, the Solenopsis, the field ants, the Formicas, and now carpenter ants and Tapinomas. So
do you have, I mean, are they also Hymenoptera?
yes.
So do you have a thing for that whole group?
Well, they're pretty cool animals, you know. I can't say that that's the only insect I like. I kind of think butterflies and moths are really interesting, and you know, there's also the any insect.
Great. All right, well, I'm gonna hit the end button for the recording.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
once again, thanks again, and I hope to see you